The last place I wanted to be was Frostnipistan.
This One's Wife. Why are Meghan Markle and Blake Lively so hated? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. This One's Wife, Blake Lively, Amber Heard, Jada Pinkett Smith. These are names which are often mentioned together. They are all, of course, women, famous women, who, in recent years, have found themselves on the receiving end of considerable criticism, anger, and, in some instances, hatred. But why? Well, interestingly, one journalist decided to look at This One's Wife and Blake Lively, and E.J. Dixon posed the question, why do these women inspire such rage? Nothing riles the internet up more than This One's Wife and Blake Lively. Let's find out if E.J. Dixon is able to identify correctly what it is about This One's Wife and Lively that gets people so worked up. She writes, by most metrics, with Love Meghan, This One's Wife's new Netflix lifestyle series would be considered a moderate success. It debuted in Netflix's global top 10 earlier this month and has already been renewed for a second season. As we know, it's not really a second season, it's part 2 of season 1. Some of the items featured on the show, like a Le Creuset pan and a belted shirt dress from Cézanne, have already sold out online. The day the show premiered, This One's Wife also previewed her long-awaited lifestyle brand, As Ever, a line of jams, teas, and her trademark edible flour sprinkles, developed in partnership with Netflix. But for many of This One's Wife's biggest haters, the show was a prime opportunity to revisit their rancor. On social media, This One's Wife has been described as the biggest phony on the planet, a narcissistic sociopath, and the human equivalent of a knockoff handbag, shiny until you spot the loose stitching. Conservative influencers like Brett Cooper blasted her for being fake, contrived, and inauthentic, while Megyn Kelly said she was the most insecure person I have seen in the public eye in a long time. To judge from these reactions, you'd think This One's Wife was guilty of a far greater crime than simply making a mediocre TV show. This One's Wife's feud with the British royal family, whom she accused of colluding with the British media to smear her in the press and of turning a blind eye to her mental health issues, cemented her as a liar and a narcissist in the eyes of her haters. Pausing there, notice once again the pejorative use of the word hater. What's wrong with using critics? It's actually accurate. This One's Wife's entire persona is built on exaggerations and self-victimization, one detractor wrote on X earlier this month. In a Brett Cooper Show episode about This One's Wife, Cooper said, "We've genuinely had enough with your constant victimhood while simultaneously contributing to your own problems and your own plight as you parade around in front of us with a product this fake, contrived, and inauthentic." Now, people are comparing her to Blake Lively, who last year filed a civil suit against It Ends With Us director Justin Baldoni, alleging that he sexually harassed her and fostered a hostile work environment on set, and subsequently spearheaded an online harassment campaign against her. Like This One's Wife's allegations against the royal family and the British media, there is nothing terribly outlandish or unbelievable about Lively's claims, yet people have responded to them as if they are obvious lies. More than that, they've responded with outrage. There is now an entire cottage industry of TikTokers and gossip vloggers attempting to publicly discredit Lively. Tellingly, most of her detractors are women. Many, like the notorious conspiracy theorist and anti-Semite Candace Owens and former Fox News host Megyn Kelly, are explicitly right-wing. In one episode of her podcast, Kelly uses a rather anodyne clip of Lively talking about her desire to transition from acting to writing and directing as evidence of her nature as a serial fraudster, accusing her of signing on to the film under false pretenses to wrest creative control from Baldoni. On the internet, it seems being female and slightly annoying is now a far greater offence than being accused of sexual misconduct. This One's Wife and Blake Lively have skated through life without facing any real consequences, which is why they feel entitled to bully and manipulate others, reads one tweet. Both of them have allowed unchecked egos and a complete lack of accountability to harm those around them. Another wrote of This One's Wife and Lively, they are trying age-old techniques to win people over, but they forget that people have access to social media now and can see the truth. They don't get influenced by social media facades. Tellingly, plenty of people have also started, unfavourably, comparing This One's Wife and Lively with Amber Heard, who accused her ex-partner Johnny Depp of sexual assault and physical abuse, leading Depp to sue her for defamation. When Depp sued a UK tabloid for libel in 2020, the court ruled against him, finding that 12 of Heard's 14 allegations against him were proved to the civil standard. But this isn't what happened in the 2022 defamation trial in the United States. Heard was cast as an opportunist, a slut, a psycho, and a liar, resulting in an outpouring of support for Depp online. Much of the groundswell of pro-Depp sentiment on social media was later to be found inorganic. It is perhaps worth noting that Depp's crisis PR team during the trial is now working for Baldoni. Pausing there, the clear suggestion is that the support for Depp was generated by bots and was crisis managed, although, interestingly, what this article fails to note is that much of what This One's Wife support comes from bots. You only have to look at her supposed Instagram supporters and the analysis that has been undertaken in that regard, which demonstrates that the majority of those supporters aren't actually real accounts. This is far from a balanced article. It's pointing out that there has been dark arts used against Heard, but fails to recognise that those similar dark arts are utilised by at least This One's Wife. The article continues by explaining, as is the case with the backlash against Lively and This One's Wife, it was mostly women who fueled the campaign against Heard. It was mostly women who were on Etsy selling #JusticeForJohnny decals and coffee mugs, women who spearheaded conspiracy theories about the trial, women making TikToks in blonde wigs, lip-syncing to Heard's harrowing account of Depp allegedly raping her with a beer bottle. And when the jury declared Heard guilty of defamation, effectively branding her a liar and ruining her Hollywood career. It was women who came out in droves outside the Virginia courthouse kissing Depp and congratulating him on his victory. Oh, but I thought the supporters were bots, but there actually were real-life supporters. Okay. Many onlookers, particularly feminists, struggled to wrap their heads around this and wondered if it was a harbinger of more to come. Now, we seem to know the answer. Why are so many convinced that these women are dishonest? And why are they so angry about it? Is it because they simply find them irritating? Or are they just that susceptible to social media smear campaigns? Is it really so hard to believe that misogyny is so deeply ingrained in our culture that even beautiful, wealthy women can suffer from its effects? Maybe they see something in This One's Wife and Lively's stories that they don't want to see. Maybe it's easier to just not look. Now, this article is typical of a particular viewpoint. Do you notice the major thing that it does? It fails to analyse any of the behaviour of Amber Heard, This One's Wife, or Blake Lively. Doesn't mention any of the things that they've done, any of the provable and proven things that they've done. Instead, it points the finger at the audience, and primarily women, suggesting that there's something wrong with these women, that they are the ones that are engaging in a smear campaign. But this is lazy journalism. A more forensic approach would be to consider, is it a smear campaign? Is it the case that they're actually engaging in identifying the truth of these behaviours? Is it the case that these people have formed a view based on evidence and therefore are entitled not only to an opinion, but they have provided a well-formed opinion? This article singularly fails to do that. It simply operates on the premise that if you're supposedly beautiful, famous, and wealthy, you automatically become a target for derangers on the internet, and that it's not deserved. But as you know from my work, which is undertaken forensically, whereby I have carefully examined evidence in relation to Amber Heard, Blake Lively, This One's Wife, and also Jada Pinkett Smith, amongst others, and I've done it to men as well, not just women, you will understand that having looked at the evidence, having looked at the behaviours over a sustained period of time, what did I find? Blake Lively, Amber Heard, Jada Pinkett Smith, This One's Wife, they are all narcissists. And as a consequence of that, this means that they engage in manipulative behaviour to pursue the prime aims. Because of that, it means that they behave with an absence of emotional empathy and the manifestation of cognitive empathy, a manufactured device to make them look like they care and so that they fit in. It means that they only care about themselves, although they don't recognise that. It means they don't realise that they are narcissists. It means that they pursue the prime aims when it comes to dealing with other people. The evidence is there. I haven't picked it out of thin air. I spent considerable time working through evidence from lots of different sources about all of these particular women and have been able to demonstrate what they are, and their behaviour thereafter continues to reinforce what they are. And the reason why people don't like these individuals is nothing to do with the fact that they're wealthy, nothing to do with the fact that some of them would be considered beautiful, nothing to do with the fact that they're famous. It's everything to do with the way that they behave. Now, in order to be balanced, there are individuals that go too far in relation to their dislike, possibly even hatred of these women, whereby they find conspiracy behind everything they do, that they pick over the smallest of details and interpret it as to mean something which it clearly isn't on the face of it. There are those that seem to have an obsessive approach to it, spending every single day on X throwing bile in that direction. I can think, for instance, of one notable commentator in relation to This One's Wife who on a daily basis hurls gratuitous insults at This One's Wife. Sure, you may not like her, but at least demonstrate your dislike based upon evidence rather than just the repeated hurling of insults. Or give it a rest for a few days. I regularly make videos about This One's Wife because I'm portraying her narcissism. But there are others whereby it is gratuitous. Nevertheless, the vast majority of individuals that dislike the likes of This One's Wife and Blake Lively do because of one simple factor: their behaviour. And this writer completely ignores that and starts from a position of they ought to be defended and the problem is you, which entertainingly, and I've no idea what the author actually is, but that stance is rather that of a narcissist. I'm not suggesting that the author is one, but to automatically suggest that it is the accuser that is the problem, rather than actually looking at the behaviours, is a standard narcissistic defence. And so there's a delicious irony in that not only has this author singularly failed to recognise what the common problem is between all of these women, that she then engages in behaviour which they routinely do, which is, I'm not at fault, you are the problem. Articles such as this are unhelpful, because not only do they fail to recognise that it is narcissism writ large that is causing these behaviours, and that is what people are reacting to. Furthermore, it then turns on the audience, suggesting that there's something wrong with them for calling out these behaviours and expressing anger. Yes, in some respects you might say, well, if you don't like them, just move on and don't watch them. Yeah, that's a stance, and for some people that might be the best thing to do. But also people are allowed to express an opinion. After all, Is it not the case that we are regularly talked down to by these famous individuals who believe that what they have to say is of great importance, that they tell us what we should be doing and how we should be behaving? Therefore, it's part of the public transaction that we are also allowed to voice our opinion as to their behaviour. We don't have to sit silently and ignore them. If we see something which we believe that is inappropriate, that is wrong behaviour, we have an obligation and an entitlement also to point this out. The simple answer as to why this one's wife and Blake Lively are disliked and in some quarters hated, alongside Amber Heard and Jada Pinkett Smith, is all about their behaviour. But time and time again, those that are tasked with pumping out the propaganda on behalf of women such as these fail to recognise it. Either they just don't see it, or they know it, but they actively choose not to address it, because their job is to defend these individuals, rather than point out what they truly are. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.